Okay, I was on an airplane a couple of weeks ago, and I went back to my seat, and somebody was sitting in my seat. There was a 3 across, so there were 2 people there. I was supposed to be on the aisle, and the window seat was open. So I said, "I believe you're sitting in my seat." And the guy said, "Oh, you can have the window seat." And I said, "No, I think I prefer the aisle seat." And he said, "Well, if you want to be a bitch about it." So, I did not appreciate being called.
Yeah, I could imagine. So that just got inside real quick, I guess.
Yeah, it really did. And my reaction was, well, a few minutes later, he did move over because I was going to call the flight attendant. But as I was sitting there, I was thinking, okay, how am I going to get back at this guy? Revenge. I was thinking about, can I get him thrown off the plane?
Okay. So with that as our reference experience, we will start with some of the things we've already done, and that is really accessing your powers, thought and emotion, speech and behavior, and getting into that power zone. So how easily can you do that?
Relatively easily, although just recounting the incident, I could feel myself getting a little agitated.
Okay.
Okay, so into my power zone. Okay. My bubble.
Okay.
And I'm responsible for my thoughts, my feelings, my speech, and my actions.
Okay. The other day you thought of something that every fiber in your whole being could say, mine.
Yes. Okay. Mine.
Okay.
Yes.
So feel that.
Mine.
And as you pull that in, feeling that, just feel my thoughts, my opinions,
thoughts,
my feelings.
My feelings.
These are mine.
These are mine.
Okay. And let's let that be a sphere so that you can really have a sense of boundaries.
Okay.
So I'm responsible for these powers of response.
I'm responsible for these powers. Yes.
And I'll be responsible to people, especially those I'm in relationship with, but I'm not responsible for.
And I'll be responsible to people, but I will not be responsible for people.
Okay. This morning we worked with receiving feedback, even when it comes from some really stupid places and stupid ways, and receiving feedback. What did you add so that you can receive feedback without immediately taking it on?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I added humor.
Okay.
Humor. And curiosity.
Okay.
Kind of interest. Oh, and then I had never looked before for the grain of truth in a...
Okay, so it's humor.
Curiosity. And looking for the grain of truth.
Okay. With each one of those, how easily can you access humor? When you need to be humorous, can you see the funny things pretty quickly?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can put a goofy spin on it.
Okay. What allows you to see the funny side of something, see a goofy spin on something? Is it how you would represent it? Is it words you would say and do some wordplay, punning with words? Would it be a memory of just when you were in a good humorous place?
What allows me to see the humor?
Yeah. What's your favorite kind of humor?
Actually, word humor a lot.
Okay.
Puns.
Okay.
Maybe funny costumes. Ironic situations.
Okay. So as you think about that now, how much do you feel that?
Actually, I see it as a game, kind of, as a challenge to, an insult is an opportunity to get humorous, to find the funny side of it.
Okay. And you've added curiosity.
and curiosity.
Is that easy to go to curiosity?
Very easy. Curiosity is very
Just,
easy.
you're there.
Yeah.
Okay. And looking for the grain of truth.
That's a new one from
Okay.
this morning, but I can really see the value in that.
Okay.
So,
So you've got quite a few resources already.
yeah.
So what I'd like you to do is just to take all that on and just kind of be with that,
Okay.
from your power, from the ownership of that,
Okay.
from the responsibility for yourself, and the freedom not to be responsible for everything that goes on out there. And then the humor, the curiosity, the grain of truth. And just imagine all of this just being energy inside, and just swirling around and coming together and layering it and texturing it. And of course, I don't know what state that does for you or where that puts you, but when all of that's going on, just notice how you breathe, your muscle tension, your face, your eyes. Just what is it like being inside your skin when all those awarenesses and beliefs and ideas and emotional states are there.
It's really good.
Okay.
I want to go out and say, okay, insult me.
Come on, bring
Yeah.
it on.
So, yeah, good.
Okay. Notice your boundaries when you're there. Do you have a good sense of boundaries?
I've certainly improved my boundaries since I've been here. That's been
Okay.
a huge
Okay.
improvement in boundaries.
So go inside and just notice your boundaries. Notice how you open your boundaries up to certain people, and you let them in because you trust them, you have rapport with them, you care
Right.
about them, and how that some people, it's just better just to keep it out there. So you can observe. You don't have to react to them, and you can feel safe. Really feel safe. That what they say, what they do, comes out of their mind, out of their mouth, out of their heart, and it's theirs, and there's probably some grain of truth in whatever they say. It's true for them, certainly. But feeling safe, so that when you choose, you can open up those boundaries and close them.
I really like that resource. SAFE is a really good
Okay.
resource. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Do you need to do anything to make that sense of safety stronger, more grounded?
I'm not sure how I would do that.
Okay.
I could think of a time when I felt totally safe.
Okay. Do you feel safe in being you?
Yes.
Do you feel safe with my thoughts, my opinions?
My thoughts, my opinions, yes.
I'm safe with those because those are
Yes.
mine. And even if they're wrong,
Right.
I feel safe in expressing them
Okay.
because I can change my mind if I find something I need to change my mind about.
Okay.
Okay. What other resources have you decided to pick to make sure that you can move into the state of just being uninsultable?
What other resources in addition to humor, curiosity, grain of truth, and safety?
Uh-huh.
That I'm only responsible. excuse me. I'm only responsible for myself.
Okay. So that's really an
So
important one.
That's very important.
Okay.
And you're responsible for yourself.
Okay. Okay. As you do that, do you have a real strong sense that your worth and your value, who you are, is not under question? That it's unconditionally having
Yes.
value?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes.
so we've checked that out. Do you have a good sense that when words come at you or gestures come at you, they're just words and gestures? They don't mean anything until you give them meaning.
Yes.
Okay. So you make that distinction between those maps and the territory.
Yes.
Okay. So let's see what happens with all of this in mind, just having all of that, keeping all of that. What if you were in this place, and then that guy in that third seat and that taking your seat in the airplane and being bitchy about the way he called you a bitch. Just imagine this transforming that.
Yes.
Okay. Is this enough so that if you were there, really feeling safe and protected, and he said that,
I still might. What I was thinking was, you asshole. And I still might think that, but yeah, I wouldn't let it upset me.
Okay. Okay. So any other resource, because it's at the point when this encounters that and meets that, is this enough to transform that so that you can just stay safe, stay resourceful, say things that's going to be effective?
Yes, because if, again, if that situation had escalated at all, then I would have gotten, asked to be reseated or something like that. But yes, actually after the exercise this morning, I'm really looking for feedback. And now that I realize that most feedback is not true feedback, then I can start to question it, and get, how specifically and...
So if you said to him, well, how specifically am I bitching at you yet?
Good question.
To play with those words, since word play may be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does that feel?
Oh, it feels really good.
Okay. What can you do to remember this, to make this almost like a genius state so that you can step in that genius state of uninsultability when the trigger comes?
Just the phrase, I am uninsultable.
Okay. I am uninsultable.
I am uninsultable.
Okay, so that's affecting identity now.
Yes.
How much have you taken on that identity? I am or I am becoming uninsultable.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty close to there.
Okay.
I'm uninsultable.
Okay.
I am uninsultable.
Okay. What belief would support that? What belief could you believe that would really support that?
That I'm in charge of my, I have my power bubble, and I can create whatever state I want for myself, and I can add resources to my states.
Okay. That sounds like a pretty powerful belief.
Yes.
What decision could support this?
What decision? Well, I'm choosing to be uninsultable.
Okay. 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 As you think about that now, think about maybe some opportunities that will arise in the future. Are you fully aligned with that?
Yes.
Okay, no question.
No.
No objections at all?
No.
Okay. So let's just commission your executive mind, that part of your mind that makes decisions, and that part of your mind also that's real creative, because that creative part could just keep adding things, refining this and making it better, making it richer, so that with each opportunity you have and how you handle it, to whatever extent, you can just make it richer and add little qualities to it, so that there'll be a day and there'll be a time when you'll just really just feel uninsultable.
Yeah. Okay, I like that idea of having the executive be there, kind of watching over me and jumping in for me or taking care of me. Yes.
Okay. Well, good. Well, of course, the next action is the rest of us for the rest of the day just insult the day like that. Right? Insult this bitch, will you?
Good. Come on.
Great. You can see that we're using the same structure, really, with everything we're doing as we build up a matrix for something, and this happens to be a matrix for uninsultability. And so adding those qualities that's going to do it just right for you, and as you customize it for yourself. Questions on how to do it? Well, as you find some trigger, then of course you'll set that aside for the moment, build it up, and then when the person or you say, let's see if you got enough now, and just try it on. That's that future pacing. Just try it on, see if that's enough, and if not, then what else would you need so that you can handle this efficiently and effectively, and in a way that will support what you want to do as you move through life. The power of uninsultability. If you're doing anything, you're going to get insulted. And sometimes, and the more you do, you're going to get insulted. And so it's kind of the occupational hazard. In fact, if I don't get a good insult or two, if someone's not writing something against me in a week, I feel like I guess I'm not being busy and productive. I'm not doing my part. I've got to get busy here. That insults will just come, and things that, if we're so oversensitive to everybody's thoughts and feelings, instead of just getting some things done and being true to ourselves, because we're not going to be able to please everybody. And that may be one of the permission you may have to give yourself as a resource. And then you can just live your life and do the best. And if you can take feedback, then you'll keep making adjustments. That's what will prevent this from getting into arrogance or not caring if you're open to feedback.
I'm just thinking, if you have a fear of going to a party alone or into a bar alone or a restaurant, they're feeling insults before they even enter in there.
That's a good example.
And this is very empowering to do with people who have a fear of going to new places alone or doing things, can't go next, don't think back. So I think this would be a
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a good one. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah. Once again, how we can be insulted by we do a really good job and nothing ever happened. Okay.
Couldn't you carry that over to rejection? That you can't reject me, or?
Yeah, people can reject what I say, what I think, what I do. They can reject products I try to create or something that's important to me. They cannot like artwork or movie they can reject all of that. And if I'm not rejectable, if I'm not a reject, and that's not part of my definition of myself, they just don't know how lovable I am.
What you're talking right now makes me think of I was in a mall a week or two ago in Maryland, and this lady came out with this these packages that had stuff for your nails, and she wanted to sell it. And she just kind of stops people and want to try it on it. And it looks like she couldn't take no for an answer. And we finally went over and looked at the stuff. So she was in a position where she could have been insulted or get away from me or over and over. So she must be either she's had this training or somehow she knows what to do.
Okay. So 15 minutes each. 15 minutes, and we'll be back here. I've always found it interesting how some people are so word phobic. That they have a phobia of, don't say that word in front of me. I would freak out if you said that word. And really, word phobias is a sign that the map and the territory, somehow we're confusing map and territory and not making a good distinction. What worked really well for you? What went well with putting that together?
Well, I think knowing that you can ask the question, like, what made you perceive that, is a really good way to
kind
of not take ownership of what they're saying.
Okay.
The what came is almost an automatic to me, like it's almost a sequence of having a boundary in the words can't even penetrate it, and they just kind of tumble away. Because immediately I went into a state of curiosity.
Okay.
What was that about? Where did that come from?
Where did that come from?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, probably one of the best resources, if you haven't installed that, would be curiosity or fascination, just to explore, just to find out. And when you're operating from curiosity of know nothing, I really don't understand where this came from. Then we're seeking information, seeking clarification, trying to truly understand, and keeping your sense of humor obviously is a key part too. The humor has to be careful. It has to be lighthearted humor and humane humor instead of aggressive humor, laughing at someone. But it's laughing at our fallibilities. It's laughing at the fact that we're all silly human beings acting serious. In neurosemantics, we say that if you get serious, you'll get stupid. And that's my personal biography. If you get serious, you get stupid.
That actually happened to me where somebody, I don't know if it was an insult, but it wasn't the best way to give the feedback. And my response, I just kind of listened to it and I was like, I just started laughing. It was really bad because the person took it even worse. They said, well, you're laughing at me when I say that to me, In other words, I did something to the person. And they came back after that. So I don't know if I'm going to laugh. I don't know. I might find it humorous, but I'll keep it to myself.
Sometimes when I work in the hospitals, they bring in, drunks or something, and they'll say, you're really a jerk. I say, you're right, thanks. That's what I get paid to do. Take it as a compliment. It's like
it interrupts the program. They don't know how the program can operate.
I agree.
Well, obviously, being in a state of uninsultability enables us to do the things we want to do. If we get rejection, if we get people not understanding clearly, we just keep at it. So that instead of taking insult, being put off, feeling bad, feeling defensive, feeling reactive, we just go on and we're not put off by it. Uninsultability, when we get to tomorrow, when we talk about wealth building, anybody who's going to go after something and build wealth and do something is going to have to face many no's, many rejections, many things. And so just being uninsultable and believing in what you believe and getting feedback so that we are adjusting ourselves to information that's accurate, that's useful, but without just going into insult about it. So really, uninsultability is breaking off that personalizing, because it's really not about us. It's not about you. It's really about maybe what you said, what you did, how you did it, which if you know how to squeeze the feedback out of that, then that can also raise the level of performance.
Sometimes I think you squeeze though, provokes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just have to let it go.
Yeah. So several of the permissions that seem to fit and go along with uninsultability is permission to not please everybody, permission not to live my life tiptoeing around everybody's so-called fragilities, permission to what did I just say? Fragilities. I invent words too. So we don't tiptoe around everybody just on that pleasing thing, or so second guessing what so and so might think if, because what a waste of mental and emotional energy. If someone doesn't like something, we get them to say so and deal with it and just move on instead of that. So uninsultability enables us just to be much more straightforward, much more direct, and more human. Because if I'm okay with my mistakes, other people may not be so okay with my mistakes. But if I'm okay with my mistakes, and they're freaking out about it, you know. And it may provoke them, it may upset them, it may rattle their cage, and I take that. There's a little bit of mischievousness in me, just wondering, how do you do this? You know, I'm feeling good. You're feeling bad about my mistakes. I need to pay you, so I have this relief.
Here's one time that could cause a problem is if one person is making mistakes that can have effects on a spouse or somebody else who's close to them, and legitimately, the other person is affected. So let's say one spouse is spending money like wild, and they're not sticking to the agreement, or they don't have an agreement yet, or whatever. Then hopefully that would serve as a some kind of a point at which you're going to talk and make some agreement, so that the other person is scared. I'm not going to lose my house or whatever.
Exactly.
So I mean that's what you just said is if it's just like the one person is doing some little thing that is only affecting the other person, then that's different.
So for me, there's the difference between if it provokes someone at a certain time, and if this is ongoing pattern, we just need to get the feedback and make a better arrangement or agreement. How are we going to handle this? Versus someone just getting irritated at a given point about something. So.
Some of coming from where I come from. Streets in LA and a lot of rough violence and all that kind of stuff. That, can a person, live in such a defensive state that, even interacting with people that they're constantly trying to second guess, and actually constructing or imagining a life of, like strategically planning out, okay, if I do this, they're going to do this, and waste all this mental energy. When is it constructing something or visualizing something healthy and good, and when can it be kind of this emotional, ongoing, useless process?
Yeah, if you live in an environment that's dangerous constantly, and everything habituates, so it could habituate as your frame, and then you may never step out of it, even when you're with loving, close friends, associates, and colleagues, because you're still in that frame of mind. So, you know, a lot of times people in big cities, I mean, New York City kind of has this reputation that the people are guarded, and then if you live in that all the time, it'd be more typical never to step out of it.
Right.
So awareness of what am I doing? Is this useful? Is this not? When is it? With whom? So we have choice, so that sometimes it's good to be in a guarded kind of frame of mind, and then stepping back, doing that ecology check, and making sure it is useful at this point. The danger in living in it is that after a while we start drawing other conclusions. This is the way I am. This is me. I am a guarded person. I don't let down my guard too much. I don't want to be vulnerable. And then we develop beliefs and decisions and identities, and then it just locks it in to where then trying to step out of that and having a rich personal relationship of intimacy, you know, can be real challenging.
And then I can see that self-fulfilling prophecy coming over and over and attracting all that.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
So as you're describing this person getting in a dangerous situation, and then these beliefs building, coming in on him and habituating, and these are the same processes that you're drawing up here, the matrix operating, only we're going to use them. It's like identically the same internet flows and everything.
Mm-hmm. So uninsultability, if you were to gauge your uninsultability at this point, where are you?
Pretty good level.
Pretty good level. Okay. This is one I would really recommend. Practice it and keep developing it, and until you have that sense of course, because it's not a very common kind of a state of mind and emotion to be in that place of just not taking insults. What will happen is, with any new program, oftentimes when you get back in your real life, away from here, and people try to play the same old games they've always played, and they're trying to push buttons, and you're just not reacting, and you're saying, well, in what way am I a bitch? And you're asking these kind of weird kind of things. They might try to push the buttons even harder because they know the old game. They don't know this new game. They don't know how to play it. They feel really uncomfortable because they don't want you to change. So they may so it'll give you plenty of practice as they keep trying this. And so being forewarned is
the person close to me always says, "Oh, stop using this NLP stuff on me."
Yeah.
They put their shield around them because they think you're going to change them.
Yeah, the fear. Well, because the easiest way I can change you is not respond to the old patterns that I've had with you. And when I don't operate by the old patterns, then it's like the game has changed, and it invites the other one to change. And when I'm changing in a way that's inviting, well, tell me what you're really thinking. What's really going on here? What are you feeling? You just displaced some of this anger, frustration, or stress, and maybe there's a nugget of truth that I need to look at, but what else is going on? And then it changes the conversation. The conversation becomes very different. It's not, yes, you are, no, you're not, yes, you are. It just becomes a whole different kind of conversation, because then we can get real, and we can get to the heart of things, and we can change the things that need to be changed. And the realization that uninsultability is really a tool for staying present to someone, because it's part of how we do diffusing hotheads. To diffuse a hothead, you've got to really be in a good place, solid, grounded, and not taking insult. Because part of diffusing someone who's stressed out, when someone is stressed out and the blood's been withdrawn from brain and stomach, sent to the larger muscle groups, and they're not thinking well, and their language is more survival mode and black and white and childish and immature, and out comes this stuff, one of the ways to diffuse that hothead is, well, tell me some more. And how else do you hate me? And what else sucks about life? And just because we're just helping them to unload, to download, until they get it all out. And most of the time when they get it all out, they're okay. And you don't need to talk about any of that, because it was crap in the first place. It was just stress overload. And we've all been there. We say things, we say angry words, we say hateful words, we say those things, and we really don't mean it. It's a function of that state that we're in. It's not the real me. Now, if some people believe that's the real me. Some people believe that when you get into that stress overload, you're saying what you really mean and that you never have had the guts to say. And if you believe that, but the fact is, every human being, you put any human being in stress overload, sleep deprivation, not feeling good, out will come that kind of stuff. They'll say extreme things, hateful things, ugly things. It comes out because a person is hurting. Now, the ability to have eyes to see a hurting person and empathy when they're attacking you would be the next level. That's when we really transcend our experiences, and we can be loving and kind even to, that kind of thing. But it's a hurting person who does that. When do you do it? When you're feeling really good and robust and resourceful? Or when it feels like, life has gone to hell? We behave that way when we're not resourceful, when we're hurting, when something is not well.
Something that came up when I was with my partner on unsolvability, I was just thinking, there may be another pattern to this in the self matrix, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, we can sort ourselves when we get off on ourselves, when we, we're maybe just not aware that maybe we're better than we think we are. We're, like for a moment I might think, oh, self-efficacy, I can't do that. I can't do it. And they go into a lot more stuff and, escalate. So I'm not sure whether, have you ever used uninsultability on your own self, or is there something just in the self matrix that you would just use?
Well, if you're insulting yourself,
if you're beating up yourself.
being hard on yourself, attacking, judging. And so how we cut that out is my self-esteem is a given. As a person, I'm different from my behavior. So if I attack something, I can attack maybe my behavior.
I'm not my behavior.
I'm not my behavior. I'm not that. And I'm okay that this is fallible. And so I'm willing to have the ego strength to look at my fallibilities because I'm more than that.
Or using Ellis's stuff, the awful lines, move that to the other ones, because I know that's something I'm aware of. Maybe just realizing this is irrational.
Well, in terms of the others matrix and getting along and connecting and bonding, we've talked about taking responsibility for, being responsible to, not taking their responsibility. We've talked about being uninsultable and taking feedback, learning, growing, the exchange, the communication. We could spend a lot of things on communication. NLP really does a lot of that. But the next thing I'd like to move to ask some questions with regard to how we get along with others is, what happens when there is hurt, accidentally or intentionally, when there's hurt? Sometimes there's small slights. Someone just ignores us, or we think that they ignored us, and there's a little hurt. So if we think about hurts in relationships, if we think about something, it may be a word, it may be an action, it may be something, or a big hurt. So the two emotional states, the two meta states that seems to handle small hurts and big hurts would be, on the next page, magnanimity and forgiveness. This is page 76. Magnanimity, and the word means big-hearted. And so magnanimity is a state where there's an expansiveness of awareness and acceptance and understanding of human beings. And when someone cuts in line, we just understand it. We're tolerant. We put up with it. We may make an excuse for them because we're big-hearted. Now, sometimes we're not in that state, and they cut in line at us, and we're more small-minded, and we're going to get our share right now, and you can't do that, and so we're very small-minded. So magnanimity is a state where there's a sense of expansiveness, and so on the definition 76 is defined as loftiness of spirit that enables us to bear trouble calmly, a disdain of meanness and revenge. It's a loftiness and courageousness of spirit, a nobility of feeling and generosity of mind. And so some of the other words for magnanimity would be forbearance, moderation, considerateness, gentleness, sweet reasonableness. And so the next bullet point, magnanimity, is about the size and the quality of your heart. So that leads to some questions. How big is my heart? What is the quality of my heart as I give it out? How big are my thoughts about myself and others in the world? And of course, the opposite, it would be little thoughts, like resentful, hurtful, grudging, little thoughts of pettiness. So magnanimity is about the quality of our heart, and what do you need to think or feel so that you're more magnanimous? Well, empathy, second position, understanding, acceptance of fallibility, awareness that people are people and they're more than their behaviors. These are the things that raise our level, and most of us can do this when we're feeling good. When there's plenty of money, and we feel good, and we feel healthy, and things are going our way, most of us just naturally have that expansiveness, so we're generous, and we're able to extend ourselves. But when things aren't, we tend to, be much more protective, and extending ourselves can even feel threatening, because it's like we don't have enough abundance to come from. There's not enough. So it's almost a poverty type of mentality, and so the opposite is that abundance mentality. So a lot of hurts can be solved this way by being big enough, so that when someone bumps you, a sorry, an apology is quite sufficient, and it just goes away, and we overlook it. And so getting into that kind of a state and having access to it, most of us easily do it with children, and so it's a state we can get to, and I would recommend accessing that, anchoring it, and getting to that so that there's a smoothness of relationship without making a fight over every little trivial thing. It's when we get feeling like we're not getting enough and we're unresourceful that we start fighting over toothpaste and toilet paper, and we should go over or under, or squeezing the tube, and all these major issues of life. And we get serious. And when we get serious in that way, then that pettiness and begrudging, resentful kind of attitude comes up, and then every relationship gets strained and stressed. So magnanimity helps for the small hurts. Humor helps for the small hurts. Expansiveness, awareness, more love, more compassion, more second position. That helps to create that. But what about the big hurts? So I'm going to rush into the big hurts, and that's where it seems to me forgiveness is going to be for that. Forgiveness, this other state, is releasing and letting a significant violation go and not holding it against the perpetrator. So forgiveness by its very definition means releasing and giving, as you did aforehand, giving like you once did, and so whatever that violation is. So forgiveness is for the big hurts. It's when something has cut you to the very fabric of your person or yourself or your relationship. Something has violated significantly, and it can't be dismissed. It can't be overlooked. It needs to be dealt with. So the paradox of forgiveness is that you have to really have permission to rage against the behavior in order to forgive. So in forgiveness, as we separate person from behavior, we rage against the behavior. If you rage against a person, we rage against the behavior. That was not acceptable. That is never acceptable. That behavior is hateful, ugly, I'm intolerant about it, I won't stand. We rage against the behavior so that paradoxically we can be compassionate to the person. And if you're forgiving yourself, then you separate yourself as a person from your behavior so that you can rage against the behavior and be compassionate toward the person. So this makes it a very complex state, and forgiveness forgiveness. The other thing about forgiveness is for us. When we forgive somebody, it's not for them. It's for us to get clean. Because otherwise we're going to resent and hate and rage. And whatever was done to us, and however many years ago it happened, now we're still playing the same thing and going into that same kind of a state. And it's a terrible, miserable way to live. And so forgiveness is for us. So if there's somebody you need to forgive to get out of the canopy of your mind, because if you still have that enemy in your mind, and you keep feeling these negative feelings and turning it, actually you're turning it against your map of them. And because it's your map, you're actually turning it against yourself. That's why it's for you. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It may lead to reconciliation if the other person wants it and if you want it, but there's no obligation to get back in. But forgiveness may lead, but is not reconciliation. And forgiveness does not mean you condone it. In fact, forgiveness means you're raging holy hell against the behavior. And using the power of intolerance to say that's not acceptable and it's not welcome in my world, and I'm not going to put up with that. So in forgiveness, the structure here is the first state is a state where there's been a significant hurt, what violates you in a significant way. How do you know that it is a big hurt? Probing there. Have you stood your ground and refused to take the hurt, to take away your value, your dignity, your worth, your importance? How robust is your own self-esteeming so that you don't let the hurt rob you of your dignity? Because oftentimes that's what happens. We get so violated that we start calling into question our own value and our own worth and our dignity. Then in the others matrix, we make this separation. We distinguish the person from the behavior. Are you clear that this person is more than his or her expressions and behaviors? And then you can see a lot of the other states and a lot of the other processes that we do. And the sequencing is really important with the hurt. That in this state of hurt, and whatever was the behavior that initiated this hurt, one of the first things we do, we access a state of anger and rage and direct that to the behavior. And as we direct it to the behavior, we let that behavior have it. We express it. This enables us to register what anger is for, a violation of something valuable, important, significant to us. And once we do that, and we can do that symbolically. In fact, it's very powerful for us to do it symbolically in our mind, writing a letter, doing various things that just allows us to express that anger. And once we've expressed the anger, then compassion can grow. Compassion, empathy, love, some emotion that is more tender, that whoever created this behavior, now we can be compassionate to the person who created that behavior, that they're more than that behavior. And maybe this compassion could even be pity. Pity for the state that they got into, or the way they think, or their map of the world, that they would actually create this. A pity for them. And so the two key emotions that does the cleansing. Once we've done that, then we're ready to move to another state. We've separated person from behavior, directing the two emotions there. Now we're ready to rise up to even a higher level of really decision. And decision is, I will no longer hold this against that person. I refuse to keep focusing on this. I let this just vanish away. It's something I went through. It's in the past. I refuse to hold this against them or hold this against me. I refuse to let this define me, describe me. And so that decision is the decision to let it go and to release it. And oftentimes we're afraid of releasing it because what if something like that happens again? And So we become afraid of releasing the hurt, and so forgiveness involves that decision. So you can see some of the other pieces there, that decision to let it go, and the sense of responsibility for my state and my responses, and letting other people have their responses. And then that may lead to reconciliation, or it may just free us to move on. So forgiveness as a real tool for doing, for keeping relationships clean. So there may be someone in your mind that you need to forgive. You may need to forgive yourself for having experienced something or gone through something. And forgiveness becomes one of these social emotions in this relationship with others matrix that is a real skill for renewal, rejuvenation, bring back a sense of vitality so we don't keep the hurt with us. Comments, questions?
Well, you can choose to sort of keep that person out of your life, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can forgive them, but still
definitely
not want to have anything to do with them.
Yeah. And that's why I keep repeating, forgiveness is for us. Forgiveness is for us, not for them. They may not even know, you may not even tell them that you've forgiven them. I wouldn't tell them I've forgiven them. Personally, I wouldn't tell them until they come to ask for forgiveness. But I'm not going to carry them around.
The best way I've seen this described by somebody who went through it was The Journey by Brandon Mays. Have you read that?
I haven't read that.
Okay. She describes it very fully.
Okay.
An actual process.
There's lots of studies now showing personality types, personality features, and different kinds of diseases and disorders and difficulties. And when we are unforgiving, when we are holding resentment, when we stay bitter, it does a lot of damage to our neurology, to our health, to our unwellness. And I've seen things that are just miracle-like experiences with people having finally forgiven, and the value that it has just in their health and their energy. So because they're not carrying that stuff around and really toxifying their mind and their emotions with that. And oftentimes, getting back into a new relationship, a second marriage or a new relationship of some sort, or even with colleagues in business, entering into another business relationship, a lot of times we can't go because we've got these blocks, these hatefulness, this fear, this resentment. And so this frees us up so that we can start again and start clean. And so forgiveness is to keep our spirit sweet. Because just because some event was toxic to us or poison, it didn't work out, and we got disappointed and disillusioned and depressed and frustrated. If we start drawing maps, this is the way people are, this is the way women are, I know women, this is the way guys, I know what guys want. And we start drawing these conclusions.
And even more important than this, to do this, but then forgive yourself. I had a client once, and she had all sorts of really expensive fertility treatments to get pregnant for 2.5 years. And then I read an article about NLP and fertility. She came to me, we just had 2 sessions, and she was pregnant within a week of the second session.
How much was your
And
fee?
what she had to do, very low, was start forgiving herself for a previous child that had only lived 4 hours. She had to forgive that child. That child had to forgive her. To let go of all that. Go through that whole process. It was great. It was beautiful.
Comment that forgiving herself. So does this run on
Definitely.
yourself
And
also?
forgiving others to forgive yourself.
Yeah, because sometimes we hold that behavior that we didn't even do against ourselves.
I was talking about the one that we did do.
And then sometimes, most of the time, there were some of our, there's hardly ever a time when we didn't play some role in the process. So what role did we play? And so forgiving our behavior that may have brought this behavior on or triggered it or played some kind of a role in it, even forgiving ourselves for some stupid thing we did and not holding that behavior against ourselves. We're more than that behavior.
So should have, could have, again, should have done this, should have done that, I don't know, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think, too, it's also easy to criticize ourselves and not forgive ourselves for big decisions we've made. You know, like maybe I never should have gone out with that person, or you know, it was my fault to marry that person. Or whatever. Yeah. It's so there's not only things that maybe I've said and done, but big decisions too, and getting free from that.
I think with this whole thing, I mean, I've heard forgiveness many times, but I don't think I ever really could frame it this way. This is when I think of the big frames that I want to work on, it would be something like forgiveness, or maybe look at, say, anger and say, okay, how many different places do I do this? I mean, that's how I want to start looking at different frames. But it just seems like, just looking at forgiveness could cover so many things, take so much stress away, that the impacts could be so great.
In April, I was in Geneva, and I met a lady at our training. We were doing Living Genius, and we did forgiveness. We ran the pattern and did the forgiveness one. And she came out afterwards because she didn't want to let it be known in the group, and she said, I don't know what to forgive, but here's my situation. She had lived with her husband 30, 35 years, and he had died, and she swore she would never get married again. But 5, 6, 7 years later, she met somebody, was really attracted to him. They seemed just to really connect. They spent a couple of years, then they got married, and within 6 months of getting married, he got a fatal disease, and within 6 months he was dead. During that 6 months, the first 6 months they had some good time, and then he started getting sick, and then she became a nurse to him for the next 9 months. And during that time, it was just take care, and then the funeral. And so she said, "What do I forgive?" And I said, "Have you raged against the universe? Have you screamed and hollered that it wasn't fair and I didn't like it and was mad as hell?" And she said, "No, I'm not. I'm not supposed to get angry. Ladies don't do that." So I said, "Let's do that." I said, "I don't know exactly what to target it at, but the anger is there." And I said, "Do you feel in your body you're having aches and pains and stresses and stuff?" And so we went out. We found a room, and I said, "I just want you to let it happen. Just let that wall have it." And so she finally turned loose and just let it out. And then all the tears came, because she said, "I didn't cry at the funeral. I didn't cry. It was just." There's so many disappointments, so many frustrations, so many of this. And she said, and it wasn't about me, it was him. I needed to attend to him. And so finally the tears just flowed. And then there was that relaxation. And then I said, the compassion. You've had compassion there, and that's very appropriate. Let's be compassionate to the woman who went through that. Well, then other kind of tears. But it was a different kind of tears. It wasn't the raging tears. It was the sadness and the sympathy tears for what she went through. And then I said, "Are you willing now to not hold this against you anymore?" Raise your hand. I will from this day forward not hold this. There's some objections, so we worked through that to get her to let it go. And not to make a whole bunch of maps about herself, about the world, or about God, or about anything else, because she was just really, her mind was getting more and more poisoned with skepticism, hatred, and disillusionment, and there was another part of her mind that knew better than that, but it was just really making it more and more toxic. And so I think the fact that she received permission from somebody else to get angry was something that was helpful for her, just to let it go.
Yeah, I saw something about somebody was convicted of murder in South Africa, and you may have some experience of this, having been down there a number of times. And anyhow,
what part specifically?
He's the Godfather.
Oh, okay. But anyhow, this fella had been in prison, and rather than having parole, what they have is you can be released from prison, but you have to ask for forgiveness. You have to be, take responsibility for it. And they showed in this that the guy mouthed the words, but the people at the hearing said, we hear your words, but we don't get that, And I was really impressed with them being willing to say, okay, if you can really let that go, then we'll let you back out into society and forget about it. And I mean, that was powerful.
Was this a movie or a documentary?
Documentary, yeah.
Did he get out?
They didn't release him because he hadn't. I didn't see a follow-up to it, but he had come part of the way. But the people in the hearing were listening for those nuances. It wasn't as, if they'd have something like this where they could work through it, I mean, they would probably say, okay, you're here 2 years, we can let you go.
Old Nelson Mandela did this in South Africa. When he came out of prison, 27 years, he could have put everybody in prison. He had the power. But he opened the Reconciliation Commission, and he encouraged people to come forward and to say to the relatives, I was the one who killed or tortured or you or your family or whatever. And he encouraged forgiveness through a whole country because he knew it was the only way to heal.
Oh, boy.
Nobody was punished.
Yeah, boy, that was...
Well, it's very
And that's how he healed the country.
Yeah, so there's a lot of healing in this.
Oh, yeah.
That was 2 or 3 years ago I saw that. I mean, it's...
So the structure of forgiveness involves something that when you first encounter it, seems to me to be so paradoxical that we forgive by getting angry. But we get angry at the behavior or the expressions of the hurt, not the person who perpetrated, not our size. And when we apply that back to ourselves, we let ourselves go after we've registered and made that learning of what's been hurtful. And so we don't hold it against ourselves or them anymore. Well, we may have time to do this, but the next piece I want to do, I guess we ought to take a break. Let's take a calibrating. We should take a break. Take a break now. 15 minutes. The last two lines, your inner social panorama. Like time, we have an inner world of people we carry with us and never leave home without. So the social panorama, let's explore the social panorama and see what's there. Years ago, when I had my private practice, every once in a while I'd see some children as a psychotherapist. I didn't see many children, but from time to time I saw a few. Usually it was children of divorce. Usually it was children who were struggling with school or ADD or parents or something. And so when they would come in, I had a chessboard, and I would put it on a little table, and I'd get the kid to come up to the table, and I had a little box of dominoes and chess players, and I had a bunch of animals and dinosaurs and action characters, and I would say, with all these boxes of toys, who would you be? And almost always, the child would pick out one of the pawns, sometimes an action figure, and put on the board. And I said, where's Mom and Dad? And almost always they get the king and the queen. And I said, where would you put the king and the queen? And sometimes they put them together, and sometimes they put them apart, and sometimes they... And I said, who else is in your world? You've got brothers and sisters? So they get some pawns and put brothers or sisters, or they get some little action figure and be a brother or sister, or cousin or nephew or friend. And so in that way, I would get them, and this is called a socialgram, I would get them to, in a three-dimensional, physical kind of a way, show me who's in their world. And they would do this, and I'd get the dominoes, and I'd say, you know, some people are really important. You'd put them up on a pedestal. Some people, they're kind of behind a wall. You build a wall. So they would build walls, and they'd push people around, and sometimes build a little prison with those dominoes and put somebody in there. And so they would draw their world. I'd be there with a sheet of paper drawing what they drew. And then I had my magic wand. I'd get my magic wand out and I would say, hocus pocus presto. If you could change this world and you were the power person to change this, how would you want this to be if you could have this the way you wanted it? So they'd move it around. They'd take some walls out. They'd push someone back. And they would start moving around their social world. I'd be drawing that. Present state, desired state. And then I would say, how can we do this? How could you get it this way? What could Mom do? What could Dad do? What could you do to get it this way? Well, that was a socialgram. A socialgram comes from the field of sociology, and Lucas Dirks has written a book called Social Panorama. He's an NLP trainer in the Netherlands. Do you know Lucas Dirks? Yeah. Lucas, and this book is going to be published in about 3 months from Crown House, Social Panorama. It is now. I've got the book. I've had it for several years in an unpublished manuscript form, and Lucas has done for us for NLP because the subtitle of the book is Sociology Meets NLP. It kind of sounds like Godzilla meets Bambi. NLP meets sociology. And so like time, we externalize time. So your timeline of the past, your present, your future. Lucas started thinking, do we externalize, like in the socialgram, do we externalize people? And so he came up with the social panorama. So what I'm going to do is to give you an experience. This will be our induction for the day. So the best way to experience this is to put things away, and if you want to lie on the floor, this would be a good time, because I'm going to do a guiding conversation